vibration of creation, the cosmic hum. The eternal cyclic rhythm of earth, moon, and sun. Earth song is the ancient conversation between shore and sea. The love ballad between flower and bee. Earth song is the melody of mountains that rise and fall.
Hello, beautiful women, and welcome back to another interview in Embody, the Empress, where we are looking at how to blossom and flourish in harmony with the natural world. Today, I am so thrilled to introduce you to Kerry O'Sullivan. I went hunting for somebody that could talk about Tantra, and I went into a group that of women that I really love, and I typed in Tantra, and I was like looking, and Kerry's name popped up, and I went looking at her profile and just went, "This is the woman. This is the woman that I want to speak to." So I am so thrilled that you said yes and that we have this opportunity to connect. Kerry, thank you so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It really is. I'm excited to unpack this and go into this subject that's so like passionate and deep, really like resonates so deeply with me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Your bio was beautiful, and I tend not to read things from bios because I feel like it's a little bit more for us than it is necessarily for the audience. But I pulled out one little bit because it just felt like exactly what I wanted to share. And it was that Kerry has touched the lives of thousands of women globally, helping them reconnect to their inner beauty, awaken their sexual energy to heal past wounds, and step into a life filled with authentic pleasure and aligned truth. So I wanted to give that bit because I feel like we're gonna pull all those bits out. Just a little teaser for everybody. So what I'm going to do is start this interview. I feel like, if we can get a picture of your story, all the things that have come along the way, well, probably not all of them because our time is not that huge, but just pulling out the bits that have really made an impact on you. And the things that I'm particularly interested in are when you followed your intuition, like the things that have not necessarily made sense, but you follow your intuition. And then times when you ignore that, I call it ignoring the red flags. When we look back on it and our gut goes, yeah, I know. I knew at the time that wasn't a good decision, but I did it anyway. Because I think the more that we look at this, the more aware we become of it. So if we go back in time and think about when you were launched into womanhood, around, perhaps when you finished school around 18, 19, 20, 21, that sort of age, wherever you feel like you want to start. Tell me, who did you think, what did you imagine you were going to be doing with your life? How did you see yourself at that point?
Yeah, I mean, wow, like there's so much there, but I think a real pivotal point for me was even at 15. There was a real pivotal point that happened to me at 15 where my mum was really ill, and there was like this switch where all of a sudden I decided, and I say I decided because now I've did all this work, I realized I decided that I was going to be mum.
Mm.
Yeah, that I like it was like this switch of like okay, this is me. I'm in charge now. I have to look after my mum and my sister,
Yeah.
and and that happened at a really young age, at 15. And then when I got to kind of 17, nearly 18, I went off to university, and I just knew that I was meant to go away from the home, like I had to go away. And there was this point where I arrived in Stoke-on-Trent, it's like in the Midlands, say 4 hours away from where I lived, and it was like I can be whoever I want to be. Like,
Yeah.
who am I now?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not the one who's got a mentally ill mum who everyone knows about, all the dramas and all the things that have happened. I'm actually Kerry, and who am I? Who is Kerry?
Yeah.
And so I remember being at university and just having this like these questions around who I was, and actually I was quite confused now. I look back on it. I was just trying to understand where I was, what my where my way was. And when I was at uni, we had to do like this sandwich year where we go out, and most people go into London to do their work experience. And I was from London, so I was like, this doesn't appeal to me. I'm going to go and live in Canada. And again, it was one of those things that it's almost like I got told you've got to go and live in Canada, right? And so I wrote off to about 50 companies, I'm not joking, like with pen and paper writing then, and sent out to all these companies. And it was mainly in like the East Coast, Toronto area. And I didn't get one reply, not one reply. And so then I sat there and I was like looking into going to all different places in Canada. And then I realised it was very cold in Toronto. So I headed to Vancouver. And I literally booked a flight with no accommodation at the other end, no nothing. And I just jumped on a plane.
As you do. Do you know, I'm laughing because I recorded an interview with Anara Arian Griffin, who's part of this series as well. And her story is the opposite. So she was born and raised in Canada, and she was like, I've got to get out of Canada. And she went to the UK. And then like, so for you to say that tonight, it was like, this is, the 6 degrees of separation. There's something here.
Something in it, but it was more this like leap of faith. And my mum was really unwell still, and there was part of me that felt like I shouldn't be leaving, but there was this inner knowing that I had to leave.
Yeah.
Like it was so like so intense. It was like, I'm scared. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I just know.
I love the audacity of us at that age. It's just, but also, like, it's following that gut knowing. Amazing.
And I mean, the minute I got on the plane, I met these two girls who I then end up living with. We end up having an apartment, and I'm still friends with them today. And so that was like 25 years ago that I did this, right? 26 years ago. And I had the most phenomenal experience in Canada. But that wasn't even though that was the beginning, that wasn't the beginning. So I came back after my year out and finished my university degree. Then I went traveling around the world again with my then ex-husband, my now ex-husband. But at the time, I wasn't aware that I had anything happening. Like I wasn't aware of any trauma that I had.
Right.
And this is the piece that I suppose still just like it still amazes me actually that for most of my life actually until and I can kind of jump a little bit. I got married, all of that stuff, and then I got divorced. He left me, which was quite a pivotal point. And I remember when he left me, like he came home one day and said, I don't love you anymore. And I remember literally on my hands and knees looking up at him and thinking, please don't leave me. Like I didn't know who I was again. It's like I lost myself again,
Yeah.
I didn't, and I was almost like I became this part of this too, and I didn't know who I was,
Yeah.
and but there was, like you say, about these moments, these red flags, like so many red flags happened in my marriage. I was with this guy for 10 years, and so many moments where I kind of ignored things or just felt, no, we're meant to do this. We've been
Yeah.
together this long,
Yeah.
and I even remember I actually got married in Canada as well. And I remember on the morning of my wedding, sitting on the beach in Vancouver, thinking, I don't think I'm meant to feel like this on my wedding day. Like
I know. I know.
feeling this doubt, feeling so low. But
Mm.
then going, well, everyone's flown over for the wedding. I'm getting married on top of a freaking mountain in
Oh,
Vancouver. I'm like,
yeah.
you're getting married today.
Yeah. How do we get ourselves in? I mean, my story is so similar. Just my first marriage, it was just like every red flag, but I just wanted it to be right. I wanted it so I just like kept ignoring things, kept making things okay. And yeah, it was
Mm.
just it it's it's amazing how many women I know with this story.
Yeah.
And
And I mean, he was my first
yeah,
kind of boyfriend, like
yeah.
proper boyfriend. And so I remember like there were so many things that happened in the initial stages
Mm.
where I kind of, I suppose, didn't put myself first and just conformed or went a certain way that didn't feel right. But I don't think I was embodied enough to really know. But it's only now I know, looking back.
Yeah. So you made those decisions. I mean, you've talked about a trauma that you've become aware of, but that existed in you, that was part of you making that decision to go into a marriage that you knew wasn't right.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I was going to say, but the thing was, it's not like, so I remember when he proposed to me, just having these like, again, this feeling of, oh, we've been together 8 years. This is what you do, you get married, but not actually thinking, oh my God, we're getting married. More like, this is what you do.
Yeah.
And so what, I mean, after we split up, I then um, went on a more of a journey about who I am and all of that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I'm with my current partner, who I've been with for 14 years now. At the beginning of that journey, I was at my job and I worked in media, so I was very much in this like work hard, play hard environment where I was continually going,
Mm.
like literally like the hamster wheel, like you imagine. And and then I had my daughter, and it changed everything, like having my little girl. And all of a sudden I was like rushing off in the mornings on the train to London and then getting back just in time for bedtime. And I was like, it's not meant to be like this,
Yeah.
surely. This is not what motherhood is all about.
Yeah.
And and then one day, like one of my best friends got diagnosed with cancer, and it was a real like a moment of tomorrow life could just change like this.
Yeah.
Like my friend Helen went from like just being a mum, being busy, doing life, and then all of a sudden she had cancer,
Mm.
and then her whole life changed overnight.
Yeah.
And I'd lost quite a few people really young before that, lots of friends and friends of friends, and this kind of realization that your life is so precious and can just change in a moment. And I
Mm.
think death has actually been a huge part of my awakening, actually. This like knowing that how precious it is.
Yeah.
And and so again, this one morning I woke up and I'd been going through some tough stuff, some tough stuff at work, and like where I was almost being told I was a certain person, I wasn't that person, and I was going through this grievance with my boss, and I was like, this isn't right. Like something has to change, and I'd worked through that, and I woke up one morning, I was like, I need to hand my notice in, and I've been in this career for like 15 years. And I was like, I need to hand my notice in.
Mhm.
And so I told my partner, he was like, Kerry, we're just about, you saying you want to move house. We can't move house and get a mortgage and you're just going to leave your job. And I'm like, yeah, we can. Yeah, we can. We can do it all. I said, it's fine. We'll do that in the
Yeah.
time. And so I walked in the next day. I wrote a letter and told my boss I had 3 months' notice.
Yeah.
She's like, so what are you going to be doing?
Yeah.
And I'd already been for interviews and stuff with other companies. I knew I weren't doing that. I said, I don't know. I
Yeah.
haven't got a job to go to.
Yeah.
And they all thought I was going crazy.
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those knowings of like, I've got to leave this job. this is it. I don't know why. I've got to leave.
Yeah.
And that's when it all carried on. And I could keep going on, but I'm conscious that there's so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, it gets a bit more juicier after that. But
Well,
I can,
you can't drop it there.
I was just conscious. I'm thinking like I've told you so much. You're probably just like you might have some questions.
No, I like one of the things that's coming into my mind is what was the work you were doing? What did you do at uni instead of
I did a marketing degree.
marketing? Yeah. Okay.
And so, like, so when I lived in Canada, it was like I need to get a proper job.
Oh
When I
yeah.
went to Australia, I need to get a proper job. When I travelled around Australia, it was like I was always in this conformity of like I need to work in an office so it looks good on my CV. That was like that's what I was like.
Be a grown up, a real person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So like people in Australia getting jobs in bars, and I was like, I worked in a bank. I worked in Westpac, the bank, for like a year. So
Yeah.
I was working, in a bank and doing things that I thought were grown up, like you say.
Yeah. Of all the things you could do, spending time living in Australia is work at Westpac Bank. I'm not
I know,
not
I
excited
know,
for you.
but now if I did it all again, I'd totally be like
Oh,
working in some cool little coffee shop or whatever. But I wasn't ready then to do all
yeah,
those cool things.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So when did you stop being a good girl and doing the right thing? That's my next question.
Yeah, I think it all started when I left my job and like people thought I was literally losing the will. They thought I was losing the plot basically. Like my whole or everyone around me like, Kerry, this is your career. You've worked so hard for this. You're like doing really well for yourself. Why are you going to
Yep,
walk out on a good salary? And I was like, I don't know. I
yep,
just know that I'm meant to.
yep,
And I remember in my leaving speech, they were all joking because at that point I'd already trained in some holistic therapies and I was working with the homeless at Christmas and doing things like that with my holistic stuff, like
yep.
Indian head massage, reflexology, very normal things I would call them now. And and so
That was the intro to your woo-woo stage that, yeah.
yeah, it was. So I've been doing these little pieces, and actually I was going to backtrack a little bit. The reason why I trained in those things was
Yeah,
because I'd had IBS my whole life and not really knew why. And I'd taken myself off to a retreat. And I remember the first time I felt energy, like I was laying there having some acupuncture. And I remember, like, he said to me, I'm just going to leave the room and I'll be back in a sec or whatever. And he had some needles in me.
yeah,
And I remember thinking, like, wow, the sun, I had my eyes closed, but the sun was coming in and I could feel this energy moving around my body. And then I opened my eyes and there was no sunshine and I could feel
mm,
this energy. And I was like, what is this? Like, what is this energy I can feel?
yeah,
And that inspired me to train in these therapies afterwards because I was like, I need to learn. And it wasn't just that, it was also that my mum had bipolar and actually I really wanted something that I could do for my mum that didn't involve talking, so I could just allow her to drop into her body. And so I'd already kind of entered this world from a different kind of angle.
yeah,
And so in my leaving speech, they were like, Kerry's going to go and heal the world. She's going to be on a stage, and
mhm,
people are going to come up like with walking sticks, and then they're going to walk away like all healed. And they're all like taking the mick about what I was going to end up doing, or she's going to end up on I'm a Celebrity or
yeah,
some reality TV show. And they were all sort of taking the mick. They just found it all so far-fetched.
yeah,
Like whoever leaves with no job to go to, who's got a family and wants to move house, it's like I do.
yeah. Remind me what your human design is.
Projector.
Are you at what lines are you? Three.
I've won.
You're a 5-1. Yeah, that leadership. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So you left and
With no job to go to.
right.
And my daughter was still going to nursery. And in the first month, I said, I'm going to give myself a month and I'm just going to like just give myself some space. And it was very weird because I'd gone from that, they were the days we had Blackberries.
Yeah.
I'd gone from like having a Blackberry where I was constantly on, always doing, like always working,
Yeah.
to nothing, like nothingness.
Yeah.
And I just remember feeling really on edge. Like, I don't actually know what to do with this space, you
Yeah.
know? And so I found myself going to like coffee shops and just sitting at coffee shops. And one day I picked up this magazine and it said, I was flicking through it and it said, learn to meditate.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, I've heard that's quite good. What's this meditation lark all about? And there was like a number on it or something. And so in the coffee shop, I picked up this phone and rang this person who I'm still friends with now. And I said, oh, I've heard this meditation lark's quite good. I like the idea of learning. She said, I'm free this week or a couple of days' time or something. Do you want to come? And I said, yeah, let's do it. And so off I went and I did this like sort of deep dive into like meditating, Vedic meditation. And I this was when it all changed
Yeah.
because I dropped in for like twice a day, 20-minute meditations. And I remember getting these like feelings of sexual energy come up in my body.
Yeah.
And so when I say that, what I mean is I was like, I was imagining or sensing or feeling, I was seeing these kind of like stories playing out of like me being this like sexual like goddess and me like going off and having sex with loads of people, but like really from an empowered place. And so I've come around to my meditation and I'm saying to my teacher, like, every time I meditate, I seem to be having this sexual energy. I seem to be feeling like really pleasured and like aroused, and I don't understand what's happening. I'm just feeling this charge come up in my body. And she's like, oh, just be with it. Like just let it be and just notice it. And this went on, and I just didn't understand it. Um, and then I signed up to do a course called the Energy Alignment Method, and it was again an energy deep dive into like who are you, what do you feel, your energy body, and all these different things. And again, I kind of had this piece around the sexual energy, it just kept coming up, and I just kept seeing myself like there was a show on the BBC called Mistresses, and it was about this lady who was married with a family, and then at night when her husband went to sleep, she'd go off to a hotel and she'd have sex with people and like be this different person, and she'd go back to being the normal wife. And I was just like, but this is what I was seeing. I was her. And it was almost like I had these two parts of myself, this part of me that was so raw and like expressive, and then there was this part of was like conforming, being the good wife, being the good partner. And it was like, what one am I? Like, I don't get it. So that came up. But when I started to explore it and understand where this energy had come from, it basically, I started to uncover trauma. So when I was really young, I was sexually abused, and I tapped into this, that that's when my sexual energy was first felt, was when I was really young in that abusive situation, and I hadn't remembered any of that. So my whole entire life, at this stage I was 35, 40, nearly, no, 35, 37, and it was the first time I remembered that I'd been abused,
Right.
which absolutely blew my mind because it
Right.
was like, how have I not known about this?
Yeah.
Like, I was getting all these images and flashbacks, and I was so confused because I was like, is this real or is this me making it up? Like, it was so confusing.
Mhm.
And what happened after that is I literally went to run for the hills.
Yeah.
And so I was like shutting down these, but I couldn't do any of the energy work anymore. I started to be all like confused and like, I don't want to go there. I feel it was disgusting. It was shameful. I just didn't understand.
Mm.
And basically, those next few years after that, more and more trauma came up.
Right.
And so I had many episodes that happened from the age of 5 right up to 17 when I was sexually assaulted. And so, but again, no one knew about them. not even me. Like I hadn't even consciously acknowledged it.
Wow. I think it's really, I'm always listening for the ages that people are at when these things happen, because I think of our personal development in 7-year cycles.
Yeah,
And so the fact that that remembering happened in that 35 plus is, to 42, it's a not, it doesn't surprise me. I call that period in my life the period of reclamation. It, like, there was an enormous trauma, but it was the wake up. It was the wake up
yeah,
um, that the universe gave me to get me on track. And, so for the women listening, I encourage you to think about things that happened in your life around that period. And it's not a concrete thing. It might be 34, it might be 36, but in that time, it's often something that happens that creates an upheaval. It's interesting.
yeah. And it literally sent me spinning like I was. So at the same time, my friend died. My friend Helen died. It was like, but actually, the week that she died, I'd uncovered more trauma. I'd been on a retreat, and I got rushed into hospital with suspected meningitis. This is how, like, for me, the body, how I've started to understand the body and the power of the body. And literally, meningitis, if anyone's familiar with metaphysical anatomy stuff, is all about the body just saying no. It's like, I cannot cope with this. And so I literally went offline. I didn't know my name, didn't know anything. I got rushed into hospital. And I was trying to explain to the doctors that it was energetic, but they didn't understand that it was energetic. I was saying, like, I'm working with some trauma, and they were just like, "You've got meningitis," And I was
Yeah.
like, so I was in hospital for like a week, and in that week, that's when my friend Helen died. So it was like so much was happening,
Yeah.
um, and I was in a traumatized state, I would say, for quite a few years, working through and unpacking
Yeah.
some of these things. And working through, like, it's, for me, the biggest piece of it was that, how did I not remember?
Yeah.
That was, and again, like, now I know, after doing so much work and training in many things, about how powerful the body and how it can suppress so much. And so actually, when all those years I had IBS and all those years that I journeyed with different
Oh,
illnesses in my childhood, it's like this was the body telling me all of this. But
yeah. The mind is an extraordinary thing. It's an extraordinary thing to when you start learning or even recognizing your own experiences, what the brain chooses to remember and what the brain chooses to black out, and so on. It's very powerful. So you obviously went on like this was a massive healing journey for you, and this is where you've picked up all these amazing tools that you now help other women with. And one of the things that I talk about a lot, and it's not always easy to hear, is that life is happening for us. There's a reason behind things, even when things make absolutely no sense. And to suggest that there's a reason that you were sexually abused feels really
oh no, I totally
hard
get
to
it. I
swallow.
would not be doing what I
Yeah.
do today if I
Yeah.
hadn't have gone through that.
Yeah. So this is a
Yeah.
perspective, and it's a choice to have this perspective. But I find that women who do this work and go through these traumas and then come out the other side with tools to help other women, we see the purpose in it,
Mm.
which is just it's a shift of perspective. So
Totally.
the tools that you've learned and the things that you now do with women, let's dive in there.
Yeah, so the I just to touch on, so the reason why I got into Tantra was because during all of that time, someone had said to me, you need to go and see a tantric practitioner.
Mm,
And so and I understood a little bit about Tantra, like I'd heard of it. I was like, what's that got to do with my trauma? I didn't
mm,
understand how it linked.
yeah.
And so in my kind of unpacking, I went for some Tantra massages.
Yeah.
And Tantra massage is where the entire body with consent is massaged. So the breasts are massaged, the yoni is massaged. And it's not just, it's done in a very kind of explorative connection to the body and what the body wants to say and all of that. And I was blown away by
Mm.
this. Like
Mm.
by when you connect to sexual energy, how that can help the body to move through trauma
Mm.
whilst you're in pleasure and pain and you're dancing with the both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
And when I received these massages, I was like, I need to train in this modality. Like, this
Yeah.
is what I need to be doing
Yeah.
because I knew that that was my path. So again, it's those moments of like, this is something that's so taboo.
Yeah.
And actually in my, I trained maybe 7 years ago now.
Yeah.
In those, in that time, I've had, a lot of people push back on that it's wrong, that this is a modality to
Yeah.
connect with trauma or to awaken you in a pleasurable state to then connect to pain. Like people cannot get their heads around it.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I have been put on this planet
Yeah.
to raise awareness that this is a modality
Yeah.
in the right hands with the right people
Yeah.
that can absolutely transform your life.
Yeah. Where did
Yeah.
Tantra come from? Is it an ancient practice? I don't know anything about the
Yeah, it's from
history of it.
India. So
Mm.
there's actual like almost like publications of tantras that come from India, but the tantra that I've learned is
Yeah.
kind of like the Western interpretation of the tantras.
Yeah.
Yeah. But ultimately what tantra is, from my perspective, is it's a modality to bring together the spirituality, the physical planes as one. So they kind of entwine as one. It's like weaving together this piece of that we are all one. We are
Mm.
all one. And the more that we can lean into the pain, the pleasure, the energy, the expansion, the weaving,
Yeah.
we can like tap into that part of us,
Mm.
that
I
one.
I was doing some reading to try and give myself a broader idea of what it's all about. And something that I read said it's the alchemy of the masculine and feminine energy within us, which is,
Yeah, the two
yeah.
parts. Yeah.
Mm.
And then they come together, and it's not about being the male or the female, or
Yeah.
male body, female body. It's about any bodied human. We've all got
Yeah.
masculine and
Yeah.
feminine, and
Yeah.
some people don't believe that's true as well.
Mm.
But my perception is that is, we've got the masculine and feminine, and we are working with them both. But it's the light, the dark, the heaviness, the light. It's all part of us.
Mm.
So quite often, in some of the modalities I trained at early on in the time, it was always about getting rid of
Mm.
getting rid of this fear, for instance, and bringing in love.
Yeah.
And actually, the work I've done with the somatic work I've trained in, the shamanic work, the tantric work, what the piece is that there is no right or wrong. And actually, it's not about just releasing and getting rid of. It's about feeling and allowing this energy to move through the body. And then when it moves through the bodies and it's alchemized with this sexual energy, with the energy of the lightness, it then becomes the light.
Yeah. I just want to kind of bring that up again because I feel like there's so much there in the suppression of things. We're so taught to swallow a pill, to hide the symptom, to not feel, to distract, but the incredible healing, the energy that can be released, all of the things that we can dull down, swallow down, repress, forget, can come forward when we allow ourselves to trust ourselves to feel these things and to remember these things and to experience these things. And then the energy can move and be released. And
Yeah.
through touch, I mean, it's so glaringly obvious in my mind that the healing power of touch, but also the healing power in my world of telling your story. the healing
Yeah.
power of feeling seen, heard, and, valued, like what you have to say matters. For the clients in my world, that's, like that is the profound healing that can happen simply being able to share that. But touch is, yeah,
And for
for
many
anyone to
people,
question that seems bizarre.
yeah, but for many people, touch is also unsafe, right?
Yeah,
So a lot of the people that I work with who have been sexually abused or had trauma of some
yeah,
description, physical trauma, and this is why, like for me, like it's not just about the touch, it's about the presence
yeah,
and the safety that you can create.
yeah,
So, there was times in my training when I was going through a traumatic experience or releasing some trauma and howling and all of that.
yeah,
And there was times when there were people very present with me that were working with me. But there was a time I remember once where I looked up and the person who was meant to be looking after me and holding space for me was looking around the room at
uh,
other people or taken in something else, and they wasn't present.
yeah,
And so one of the things that I have really instilled into anyone I've ever worked with is that no matter what is happening anywhere, you need to be with me. And I
yeah,
think that's something that I bring to my work is this
yeah,
this real like sharp presence with
yeah,
people. So
yeah,
and giving them permission to feel. So when I have people in my healing room, they are literally on all fours, like birthing pain, like
yeah,
howling, screaming. And there's this suppression, I think, especially with women, where we've just been told not to be that,
yeah,
not to be this raw expression of ourselves. And this
yeah,
is why, when you guys might look at my website, you'll see I do a lot about rage and then I'm doing sexual energy. It's like it's the same, it's energy, it's
yeah,
moving
yeah,
energy that's really raw and suppressed. So we can then access more of this lightness and this juiciness.
yeah. It's the wild woman, releasing the wild woman, and that can show up in so many ways, but we've been bound and gagged in so many ways. And I remember hearing somebody say that before and just feeling almost repulsed by it. It's like, what on earth are you talking about? I haven't been bound and gagged.
Mhm.
But the more I have these conversations, the more I collect women's stories, the more I think about and learn about my own story. And, we that desire to not cause disruption, that desire to not be messy, that desire to, like to keep it all together. And I think also the indoctrination that to be in that state is ugly and messy and out of control and all the things we're told not to be.
Yeah, and I very much like I'm someone that always says, and something that I've tapped in my journey is like, I want literally the snot and the
Yeah,
tears. I want it all to run down. Like, I don't even provide tissues. It's like forget the tissue. Just
yeah,
let those tears run down your body.
yeah,
Let yourself be immersed in the mud.
yeah,
It's like get comfortable with the mud. Get
yeah,
comfortable with that
yeah,
because it's the more, and I think there's this, like I say, there's a collective piece
yeah,
around this
yeah,
where, as like you say, the Empress energy, like if we can all stand together side by side and give each other permission to be
yes,
everything that we are,
yeah,
imagine what a world we would live in,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. And it's also just to to ground it, it's not a public thing. This is the thing, these are the things that we do in a safe container, in a
Mhm.
private place. That is a way to move our energy and reconnect to the essence of who we are. It's amazing.
Yeah, and what you said about the public thing, I'm going to say, well, it can be also public,
Well,
right? So,
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
one of the things that I say to my clients is like, like sometimes you make like a sound, and someone says, "Are you okay?" And you're
yeah,
like, sometimes the body just wants to do that,
yes,
and it's like, so sometimes when I'm in public, I might just do some shaking, and
yeah,
and people look at me like I'm weird, but it's like, but they also look at me as if like, oh, I wish I could do that. And so, you know, when I run, I work at a lot of festivals and I do rage rituals at festivals, and I do take women through this, and I do sexual energy ones, but when I do the rage especially, there's people walking past, and you can see they almost stop, and they're like, it's
yeah,
almost like they want to come in, they want to. And then by the end, there's like more and more people
Yeah.
gathering, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
let's release that rage. Let's be
Yeah.
empowered with this. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it's contagious, and it's, it just takes one
Mm.
to start, and then that feeling of like, yeah, you want to be part of it. I
Mm.
want to touch on sexual energy and the whys and the hows. Like when you talk about the importance of building up this life force, this fire within us. What's the why? What's the difference between doing that and, going for a run, or, whatever it is that kind of gets your blood pumping? And then we'll go into an experience perhaps of how.
Yeah. So for me, when I learned how to like even just listen and tap into my sexual energy, um, I didn't know. It's almost like an inner power.
Yeah.
It's like you can go for a run and you can get that adrenaline pumping, but there's like this power that's kind of deep within the womb, of a woman. And it's like I can like describe it, it's almost like a rose, and like giving it permission to open up.
Yeah.
That's how it feels for me. And it's like it's not for anybody else unless you can use sexual energy to connect with another person in intimacy. But this, when I talk about tapping into your own inner power, your own sexual energy,
Yeah.
it's because it's that inner knowing, it's that inner, and it comes from really deep down in you. And so imagine that you've got this in between your legs, you've got this rose that just wants to like expand, and then you can feel also when it wants to contract, because it's not always about being like this all the time.
Mm.
It's like a no and a yes. You start to know what feels like a real embodied like yes for something. So I use my sexual energy to be here with you today. I use it to write my book. I wrote 50,000 words in 3 months for my book because every day I just tapped into this inner power, this inner knowing to support me in every aspect of my life. So it's not
Mm.
about sexual relations or about, you can connect to it in self-pleasure,
Mm.
but you can also use it to just ignite yourself, ignite that inner power to open up that rosebud and to feel that expansion within yourself.
Yeah.
And that it feels like a holding for me.
Mm.
Like it's an energy of holding yourself,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
that's why you do it, because quite often we look outside of ourselves to for someone or something to hold us or to tell us what we need. And for me, this energy is so potent that it brings life into the world, right?
Mm.
It's so potent that it can, get us to the heights of pleasure.
Yeah.
Um, it's energy that can hold you without
Mm.
needing anybody else.
Mm.
It's about you and your ignition, your power, your fire, your inner
Yeah.
flame,
Yeah.
and that's what it
When I
is.
when I think about life force energy, it's like this is the thing that feels like it just radiates from the inside out. It's
Yeah,
the thing that lights up your eyes and makes your skin glow. It's this, like it's this inner life force that is integral to who we are. And I
and it's
think,
magnetic, right?
yeah,
So when I'm in this place of like inner, I can feel this, and I'm not walking around every day just like all the time, because sometimes I'm in like I'm processing, I'm in a raw state, but I'm still held by
mm,
this energy. This energy is still there, and it's a different way, but it's
yeah,
you're still there, and you're still being held by this inner flame.
yeah,
And what you find is that when you ignite this life force energy inside of you, people will magnetize to that life force energy. They'll feel it, whether you're saying a word, they'll
yeah,
just feel it.
yeah,
So you feel it, and then everyone around you feels it.
yeah.
And I think quite often this energy is tapped into with someone else. And most of my clients, when I say to them about sexual energy, and I've been at festivals and I've tried to speak to people about, do you want to come to my sexual energy talk? And they've gone, oh no, I haven't got a boyfriend. And I go, what?
Right.
you know, you don't need your boyfriend, or
Yeah.
I'm not with anyone at the moment. I'm like, it's not about anybody else. But I think there's this misconception
Yeah.
that sexual energy means being with someone else.
Yeah. So I think you talked about, when we think about the Empress, you talked about it in terms of, the birthing, the creativity, and, there's so many. I think we've tangled up sexuality with intercourse so intimately that we almost don't think of one without the other. So maybe just separating that a little bit, like really thinking about what this energy is used for in terms of the Empress, who is the birther of all new life into the world.
Yeah. So if so, like if you're really going to tap into this energy for yourself, like just it's almost like the intention behind it, like reminding yourself that this is yours. And so quite often there's this disconnect
Mm.
with just even the anatomy of that part of the body. Like when I've asked my goddesses we do like a vulva exploration where we look at the vulva.
Mm.
Most women have never even looked at her,
Yeah.
have looked at that portal which holds that energy.
Yeah.
And it's like it's starting to be intimate with yourself. And that can be done energetically if you're not ready for physical, but it also can be done in just a holding place.
Mm.
And how you can then tap into that
Yeah.
for yourself. It's like it's all about the intention that you set.
Mm. I had a dear girlfriend that took me to a yoni ceremony when I was in America doing a leadership course that went for about 4 months. And she's far more liberated than I was. I'm still letting go of my prude. She's alive and well. And we went to this thing. She said, "You'll be fine. You'll be fine." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." But we had to, like in the dark, there was a fire, which was beautiful. But we were given a mirror and we had to squat over it, and then we had to paint it. And it was like, I'd take a photo and paint it. And for me, it was just like, well, okay, I can do this.
It was an edge. Yeah.
But then I remember I took a photo of it, of the painting that I did. I must find it. I've still got it somewhere, and sent it to my husband. And it was like, what on earth are you up to over there? But it's,
Uh,
it's so liberating. It's so good to do these things. Just anything that gets you out of the norm and the discomfort and connecting to our bodies. It's, oh,
yeah, and one of the things I didn't actually mention when I told about my story, and I think it's an important piece to say because there may be some people that are listening to this that are in a similar position, is that when I discovered my sexual trauma and discovered the sexual energy, one of the things that I realized and understood, that I didn't know was even a thing, that I had never self-pleasured
oh, yeah.
up until the age of 35, like when this all came out. I'd never, I think what I remember once maybe touching myself and then feeling so much shame and I just stopped it and that was it. Like literally never. And I never knew that it was a thing to do it. And so for me, with all the abuse that I'd experienced from that area of my body, that area of my body was completely numb and it was just not something that I engaged with whatsoever.
Yeah.
So for me to learn how to self-pleasure at the age of 35 was like just
Mm.
like, and then to speak to other women who have been doing it their whole lives. So if you're someone who's never self-pleasured or who's never touched yourself, never looked at yourself and feels like you're numb,
Mm.
just know that it's absolutely perfect as well. Like it's like this is a journey of connection, a journey of awakening, a journey of listening.
Mm.
And actually that part of my body I wasn't even in my awareness.
Mm.
So and so this is why this whole journey for me has been so pivotal in terms of just even to understand what my pleasure, that I'm even allowed to pleasure, and also what pleasure even means to me. And just, for me to touch her energetically through my clothes was an edge.
Yeah.
I went to self-pleasure
Yeah.
practices with groups of women. I didn't know how.
Mm.
I didn't know how to connect to her in any way.
Mm.
So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because it just came to me that
Yeah.
there may be people out there that have never even know that this even exists, and then maybe they've never even connected with their body in that way.
And I think it goes back to what I mentioned before about women have sort of, been bound and gagged in some ways. And then this is, this idea that any part of our bodies is wrong or broken or dirty or shameful or, God, Mother Nature, the divine, created this extraordinary, amazing gift that we get to walk through life with. And to think that any part of it is anything other than beautiful is something that we get to face and heal.
And that you're able to feel pleasure, because I think there's this piece again around humanity,
Mm.
that we are I read something, I think it was in the Four Agreements in that book, or something about that as humanity we're addicted to suffering. Like suffering is actually normal, but pleasure isn't necessarily normal. Like it isn't something that's celebrated, especially like to be tapping into your pleasure.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily, like I say, self-pleasure. That's feeling joy, feeling laughter, feeling happiness in life. That actually there's almost like we can put barriers on what that looks like. Like, oh, I've had enough happiness. I've been on one holiday. It's like there's more, there's more, there's more. And that's what this energy does. This energy helps you tap into that there is no ending to the amount of pleasure, joy, and happiness you can feel in your life.
Yeah.
There is no ending to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Infinite.
Absolutely. So you're going to take us through a beautiful experience, and I feel like this is the perfect time to do it. Is there anything that you want to, is there anything that I haven't asked or anything you want to bring forward before we go into this?
No, I think what does pose a piece I just want to say before
Yeah.
we go into this is that wherever you are and whether you've resonated with my story or not, or it's like way beyond anything that you might imagine, or just to know wherever you are is perfect. Like it's just to really understand that if you're feeling in a really low space at the moment, not really tapped into your Empress, and you're feeling like it's way beyond somewhere you might be able to be right now, know that wherever you are is perfect.
Yeah.
And it's energy, and it can move and it can transmute and it can connect to the light when you are ready,
Yeah.
in the place when you feel ready, and there's no rush. So some of the things that I'm going to do in this exercise now may be too much. It might be a bit like I can't make that sound, or I can't move like Kerry is. And it's like, you don't need to.
Yeah.
Do you? You do you.
Yeah. And we can do little bits and come back and try something else when we feel braver, or whatever is perfect is
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, so I am going to hand it over to you, and I look forward to doing this with you, and I'll be back when you are complete.
Thank you. So firstly, yeah, just if you just give yourself a little, move your body a little bit. Just just move anything in your body just for a moment, just so you can arrive here. Anything that can allow you just to arrive, and then just drop into stillness for a moment. And close your eyes if that feels good for you and safe. And just take a few breaths into the body. And just feeling the anchor of like where you're sitting, whether you're laying down or sitting up. Where are you right now? What do you feel under your bum? Do you feel supported by the chair? And maybe you need to go and grab a cushion or something. Like, what can you do in this moment just to make yourself feel really comfortable? And just keep breathing into the body and just noticing how it feels to be supported by the chair, wherever you are. And with each breath, just allowing yourself to drop even more into the chair. Can you surrender that little bit more with each breath, allowing more and more of you just to be held in this moment? And before we begin to do anything more, I just want you just for a moment just to breathe in safety. So are you able to just access some safety? And maybe that's love, whatever it is, a word, or maybe it's just this feeling of safety, breathing that into the body. Breathing in safety and love and holding. And now gently, I'm going to invite you just to scan the body now. So just scanning the body from the feet upwards and just noticing if there's any tension in the body, if there's any part of your body that's like holding on, that might want to just let go a little bit more. Just breathing in and noticing any parts of the body. Maybe your shoulders are up in the air and you just want to just like breathe in and just allow them just to drop a little bit more. Just gently scanning all the way up to your mind. Maybe your mind feels quite busy. Maybe you're trying to process information, or maybe your thoughts are going off, and just breathing into them. There's no need for them to be pushed aside, but just breathing into them with awareness that you're noticing and acknowledging what's here. And now I invite you just to take some breaths into the body, but just noticing where you breathe into the body. So just noticing when you breathe in, is it in your belly, is it in your chest, and then exhaling. Just 3 deeper breaths here. And one more. And now the breath is like really, really important to help support energy to move through the body. And one of the other pieces is sound. So for the next 3 breaths, I just invite you just to check in, is there a sound in the body? And you might find this quite hard to maybe access. You can just tap your throat a little bit maybe before we do this, and just to open up the throat. Because one of the kind of pieces around this suppression is that we spoke about is this need or want to open up the throat. So just taking a few breaths and just seeing if there's a sound. Just letting that out. Just noticing if there's any part of your body that just wants to move any of that energy through as you have you made a bit of breath and a bit of sound. And I'm just going to gently get up now, and I invite you to, if you feel like you want to stand up very slowly. Just noticing you might feel a little bit coming back to the light and noticing the light coming into your eyes. Just give yourself a little stretch. Oh, yeah. So standing up might feel a little bit different, right? Because you've now released your chair or your bed where you were staying. So just for a moment, just feeling your feet on the floor, and if it feels good, just dropping and closing your eyes gently again. Just feeling your feet on the ground and feeling this anchor, like imagining that your feet are connected into the earth, like roots of a tree down into the earth, and they are your anchor. And seeing if you can just breathe for a moment, breathe in some safety from the earth into the body. And as you breathe, anything that wants to go back into the earth, go back into the earth. Take a few breaths there, noticing how it feels to be standing up and to have that anchor of the feet. And now I'm just going to invite you into a little process of shaking. So, like, imagine that not imagine, or just your feet are firm still. So, this anchor is still in place on the bottom and you're just going to shake a little bit your body. So, your shake is actually coming from that anchor in the bottom of your feet. And the reason why we're doing this is because we're creating this safety, and we're just going to kind of awaken the body a little bit through the shaking. And if you feel, it might feel unusual for you to feel like the breasts, for instance, shaking, or maybe this is not usual for you to feel this part of the body shaking, or maybe there's parts of your belly. And I would invite you, if there's any resistance to this, if there's any part of you that's feeling like this is stupid, or I don't want to do this, or obviously if you're a no, you can just pause it and not do this piece. But if you know it's a bit of resistance because it just feels abnormal and strange and different, just I invite you just to bring that into the shake, like bring it in. And then bring in some breath and some sound into that shaking. And this is just awakening the body. Yeah, awakening your energy body, awakening your physical body. And I'm just going to invite you, I'm just going to count down now from 10. So if there's any part of you that feels like it wants to shake a little bit more, I'm going to invite you to do that. If there's any part of you that wants to slow down, that's okay too. I'm going to count down now from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. If there's anything more, bring it in. 4, 3, 2, 1. And then invite you just to stop, slowly stop, and just to notice. Notice if you can feel some internal energy moving around the body. And you can just move your energy a little bit if you need to, just to allow that. Maybe you can feel kind of goosey bumps. Maybe you can feel tingles. Maybe you feel nothing, and that's also okay. Yeah, because energetically you will be moving the body, even though you can't necessarily connect to it in feeling. So now I just wanted to, while we've just done that little bit of shaking, I'm just going to invite I'm just going to show you now a few breaths where we can just, if there's any more tension that wants to be released that maybe didn't come out through the shaking, I'm just going to do a few of these breaths. I'll show you what I'm doing first. It's just you just lift your arms up. So if you just do that a few times, and just really, if you can, just close your eyes for a moment and just tap into, if there's any part of me that's resisting this concept or idea that I can connect to my inner power, Just really tune in. Is there any part of me that feels like I can't, or it's not for me, or is there any resistance to yourself being more than you are, more expression, more everything? Then we're just going to do a few of these breaths now together and just release that and really open up this sound, if there's any sound that wants to come out. Okay, now go. And 5 more. You can do slower breaths, faster breaths, whatever feels good. 1 more. Yeah, and just give yourself a little wiggle. So those processes and what I just did with you then were about like just opening up and awakening your body a little bit. So with this, when we tap into sexual energy, we need to create space for it to come in. And so sometimes if you're feeling heavy and you're feeling like you can't access this power or you don't want to, and to move the body and to make sound and to connect with your breath really opens up the body to receive. Because this is what this is a process of receiving. And so if you're someone that gives all the time in your life, maybe receiving is not something that's normal for you. Yeah. So releasing that off really supports that. So now we're going to connect into sexual energy. And like I said, I've said this a few times, I just want to say it again, is that if you don't feel anything, know that that is perfect. If you feel all of the things, that is also perfect. And everything in between is perfect too. So your experience is your experience. And I really invite you to be with that experience with as much compassion, love, and acceptance as you can. Okay, so I might be doing something, you're like, there's no way I'm in that place. It's fine, it's okay, it's perfect. So just stand here and just without any touch and just put your hands by your side. I just want you to imagine, sense, feel, connect into the kind of vulva, the womb area of your body. And it's actually the sacral chakra, but for this practice, I'm just going to say almost connect into the space in between your legs. And just take a few breaths here into that. Just the presence. Remember, I spoke about presence. Really being present with that area between your legs and bringing your presence there to your womb, your pussy, your vulva, whatever you might want to call it, your own name, your own way. And just noticing how it feels to bring presence there. Maybe you're already feeling a warmth there, maybe it's cold. Just bringing some presence there. And now I invite you, and this might feel really strange for you, to take a breath in. So if you can imagine you're almost taking a breath through your vagina, like sucking in, and then out. You can really like imagine you're like squeezing up like your pelvic muscles as well, like squeezing in, holding for a second, and then we're going to do that 3 more times. So really imagine you're sucking it right in and then out, and then relaxing. So squeezing in and out. And then 1 more time. And out. And now I'm going to invite you just to move your waist a little bit around in a circle. And that can be done one direction or the other direction, whatever direction feels comfortable. And if you want, you can put your hands on your hips or you can just have them down. It depends, whatever feels good for you. And whilst you're moving, I want you to just breathe in like we just did a minute ago. Breathing in again. And imagining that that energy is coming up to your heart. And as you exhale at the heart. So I'm just going to do it now. So it's like a loop of energy squeezing in and out. Like a loop of energy up in your inside and out through your heart. This is a heart-sex connection. So really moving this energy, this life force energy, sexual energy, into the heart, alchemizing it with love and out again. So any sound, and it might sound a little bit orgasmic, it might sound strange, but is there any sound that your body wants to make while you're doing this? And you can do it fast or slow, just connecting into your own rhythm. And really feeling into this kind of invitation to receive. So how much more can I receive this power and bring it into my heart and then out of my heart and in through my sexual energy into my sex, my vulva. And maybe you're feeling it build a little bit. I'm just inviting you just to move your hand, whether that's energetic or through touch, just rubbing it down your arms and up through your body and down your legs to the floor, like wherever you want to move this energy around your body. And if it feels good, you can say words like, I am open to receive this energy. I am open to expand this energy. And finding your own way to move this energy through the body. I am open to move and expand this energy through my body. And you can even like walk around your room, just noticing like, how's it feeling? You can open your eyes for a moment and notice how it feels, and then close your eyes and noticing how it feels. Sometimes when you close them, you might feel like you can go in a little bit more. And what are you noticing? Maybe you can feel this energy. Maybe you can feel a lightness. Maybe you can feel pulsing. Maybe you can feel nothing. Just noticing and accepting with love and compassion of everything you're feeling. You can shake your body a little bit with it. Move that energy through. Maybe use your hand on your face and your head and your neck. Like brushing it down and up through everywhere. I'm feeling very tingly. The mind's very awake. I've been doing this for a long time. Maybe you don't feel nothing, or maybe you feel everything. It's all perfect. Because even if you don't feel this is happening on the cellular level. There'll be things moving in your body that maybe you can't feel yet. Yeah, so I'm just going to give you a few more seconds just to play with this energy. You can take some more breaths through your vagina up into your heart and noticing that you can do a bit more movement. Just really inviting you just to play. Maybe there's more sound that can come out to allow more in. Just moving it around. This is my energy, my portal of magnificence. This is mine to access my own inner power, my own inner compass, my own inner knowing. This isn't about anybody else, but this is about me. Yeah, and just take a few more breaths into that. This is yours. This is your wisdom, your power, your energy. And you can use it for whatever you desire, whether that's to go out and dance around the street and connect into your besties, whether that's to get through a situation that feels a bit edgy. This is your energy to connect to your power, to yourself. There you have it, my loves. That is a little introduction to activating this beautiful power within yourself that is yours to use whenever you want. And it can just be to go shopping or to go out with the children or to go to work. It's beautiful, it's potent,
Yeah.
and it's
I can
yours.
see it being dangerous if I did that before I went shopping. All sorts of things would suddenly.
But this is a thing, right? What's the fear? You know, lean into the fear.
Yeah.
And I do this quite, I do it in the, sometimes I find myself, I'm trying to choose something and I find myself sort of spiraling in the supermarket. And honestly, but it's great because people know, they're like,
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
So good.
Here we go.
I love as our interview's gone on, you started and it was dark and early morning and the light has come up as we've done this and my light's going down as the end of the day. Opposite sides of the planet. It's so special.
How did that feel for you?
Yeah. Oh, it's like I feel so alive. And the bit that I actually really enjoyed was the bouncing, which is I could just
Yeah,
like my
the
whole body
shaking,
just
yeah.
woke up. It's amazing.
Yeah. And quite
Really nice.
often we don't realize that we are stagnant or
Yeah.
there's some like heavy energy in our body
Yeah.
until we move
Yeah.
and until we let it go. And then we realize, oh, this is what lightness feels like
Yeah.
because we've been walking around all day feeling that little heaviness we don't know.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
there's also, something that was going through my mind as I was doing that was, like being a very buxom woman. And I was from early, I was the first one to get boobs. I think I got my period about
Yeah.
11. And so then my boobs started to take off. And, but from an early age, taking on a posture and a way of moving that minimized movement.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, at 52, I still have that. So to get movement in my chest and stuff, it's like, yeah, this
And
feels
that's why I said
different.
it. And I've got huge boobs,
Yeah.
right? And I sometimes do this without a bra on. It's like the body, like it will only move how it wants to move. And it's
Yeah.
like trusting that you're working with the
Yeah.
body.
Yeah. Yeah. To
And yeah, and
feel.
I often say that like if your boobs are shaking, let them shake because
Yeah.
it's almost like, oh, they're allowed to shake because we're so used to like strapping them up.
Yeah. Bound. Don't move. That's what the way.
Yeah.
Let them out. Yeah, it's beautiful. Okay, I we could talk and talk, and this is the bit that I always find so hard to wrap it up, but maybe we'll do this again one day and keep the conversation going. But for now, I
Yeah.
know you've got a beautiful gift for our audience. You want to take a minute just to let them know what that is?
Yeah, so it's a beautiful embodied experience called Hello Sexual Energy.
Yeah.
So what we've just done today is like a little slice of like just tapping into that. So this particular um kind of package of goodies is some journal prompts to explore and understand your own relationship with sexual energy. And then there's a de-armoring meditation. So de-armoring is a process of kind of unpacking and literally taking the armor off the body. Kind of the piece we just did around like how can we release what's in the way of us receiving. So there's a de-armoring meditation to unpack that and de-armor the body.
Yeah.
And then there's the sexual energy kind of embodiment piece. And it's a 60-minute embodiment where I use music to access this and go in, and it's quite a deep process. And that's, yeah.
Wow, that's incredibly generous. Thank you so much. I know there's usually a cost for this, so that we've got our own code, which will be in the
Yeah.
email. And if anyone can't find that, just let me know and I'll make sure that you've got it. Thank you so much. So what I want to do is just ask one last question.
Yeah.
So when we think about the Empress and this beautiful sense of inner peace and harmony with the world, full out, like I like to think of your cup is completely full with joy and love for the beauty and abundance in everything that we have. When you think of that feeling, when you have that feeling, where are you and what are you doing?
I I'm immersed in nature, so
Yeah.
I'm like in the middle of a woods,
Yeah.
but probably with the ocean quite close by as well. I love the ocean, but I'm immersed in nature. The sun is shining and glistening through the
Um,
trees. There's colours. I've got like barefoot on the grass.
yes.
I'm like I don't know, like a forager. I'm totally
Yeah.
immersed. I'm just rolling around the grass. I'm just looking up at the clouds.
Yeah.
I'm nature. I'm there. I'm swimming in the sea. I'm just completely immersed in
Yeah.
nature.
I had a conversation yesterday with another guest that's going to be on our show, Gloria. She's the cacao queen. She's doing a cacao ceremony with us, which is going to be
Oh,
so special.
amazing.
But she said she talks about the universe is our home and the earth is our playground. And I was like, oh, I like that.
And that's what I see. I see myself like spinning, like
Yeah.
dancing, and it's like
Yeah.
that like you say playground, like where you're literally like jumping through the
Oh,
grass and you're just like
yep.
totally at one.
I can
Yeah,
see it. I
love
can
that.
see it with an Empress robe.
Yeah, and yeah, beautiful, like a white dress. Yeah, like a bit like
Yeah.
like, and it's just like you're magnetic. I wear a lot of sequins and stuff, but when I wear them, like they just glisten with the sun, and then like you create like these light orbs and circles everywhere. That's what I can imagine. Yeah.
So beautiful. Ah, thank you so much for this beautiful conversation and amazing experience. It's just been such a delight. And I am so glad that I found you.
Me too. Me too. What a blessing.
All right, beautiful souls. That is it from this interview. I can't wait to hear your experience of it. Please take a minute to hit reply to emails or hop in the Facebook group. Kerry will jump in there if she can and be part of the conversation. But until next time, so much love and bye for now.